Hi, everyone. I am Val Vacante. I am the founder of Collabsco, and I work with the world's most beloved brands to really uncover the white space, what's new, what's next, and bring a little bit of joy to the experiences we have in the world.
Good afternoon, everyone. Patrick Flanagan. I work at Simon Property Group, and it's a privilege to be here.
Hey everybody, I'm Phil Sage and I lead the design innovation function for PepsiCo North America. Very glad to be here, so yeah, exciting CES, so thanks for having me on the panel.
Hi, good afternoon, thank you. It's nice to be here with everyone here and meet all of you. My name is Tamara Bebb and I'm the CEO at Spectrio. We're a company that does digital signage and retail as one of our largest categories of space, so excited to share that perspective with you today.
And I'm Barry McGough. Thanks to Deborah and Val for having me to join us. I'm the Group Vice President of Innovation at the Americo Group. And we're an apparel licensee and brand owner. Excited to tell everybody about what we're doing too.
Great. Well, we will go ahead and get started. Really briefly on what to expect from the session. I will do a brief overview on the space. And each of our speakers are going to share perspectives, real-world examples, and then we'll sort of wrap it in a conversation with all of these brilliant perspectives. As I mentioned, we're really going to touch on a couple of data points. We jump in really important numbers for the audience here, right? The one on the top there, $780 billion is left on the table from brands who are not providing simple experiences. The good news is the brands that are really creating those emotionally relevant experiences, customers are spending up to 140% more. So we love those numbers. We want more of those numbers. And then really swiftly on the bottom there, because this is a little bit of foreshadowing, is that 72% of consumers say ingredient transparency, so that they want to know where their ingredients came from, how it's made, is very important. 86 million Americans have purchased items through live shopping experiences, and then 75% of fans really involved in the fandom space will purchase from brands that create those authentic and sponsored experiences around their fandom. So we're going to have we're going to do the speed run version, 5 key drivers. The first one is personalization and trust. So again, really empowering those experiences through AI and personalization. A couple of quick examples here. We're seeing things like the Yucca app. It's been sort of #1 in health, but it's really impacting how people are making decisions at the shelf. They can scan it, it'll tell them what ingredients in, skincare, products, etc. And then from a personalization standpoint, you have a couple of examples at the bottom there. There's Microsoft teamed up with Ralph Lauren to do Ask Ralph, your personalized sort of fashion assistant. And actually, Phil and I worked on Chat with Chester, so having an iconic Chester the cheetah, providing personalized sort of recipes, and all driven by brand-approved content. The next one here, we saw those numbers on fandom. So community and fandom really seeing retail as that cultural gathering space. Couple of examples here. So speaking of fandom, I've been a fan of what Crunchyroll have been doing in the space. Crunchyroll have done a phenomenal job with those fandom IPs in their Anna May program, which is in May, but it's teaming up with different retailers all around the world. And we have an example here of Uniqlo and having a manga artist come in and meeting with fans and doing drawings, etc. Promo items, exclusive promo items at retailers. And then also with Funko Pop, having voice actors from Jujutsu Kaisen come into Funko and doing meet and greets and really increasing sales, again, around that fandom. We have the Netflix house. So if you're a fan of Stranger Things, Squid Games, Netflix House. And then lastly, Razer. And Razer is really designed for gamers, by gamers, and it really shows from product to the experience in store. Additionally, we have spaces and places. So looking at how retail is becoming more than a store and a true experience. One of the highlights we saw a lot last year was the Coach coffee shops. So really giving that luxury experience, making it snackable and accessible with a great response from Gen Z. And then additionally, I'll just highlight on one more on this one, and that's with IKEA. So IKEA, I think we sort of know the traditional format, but what's exciting is that they're doing experimentation with shop in shop inside of Best Buy. They're doing smaller spaces, like at Simon Properties, where you can just go pick up your order, for example. And then also kind of mid-size formats. So I think it's quite bold that they're experimenting in such different spaces and places. The next one is social, shoppable storytelling. So really seeing more of that live shopping as an entertainment experience. And briefly here, some of you all may have seen the Shop the Show available on Amazon, so shopping the items that are on the show you're watching. Mattel have had their own platform where they're engaging with fans in chat, in stream, but that content is shoppable as well. And then sort of lastly, rounding it out with connected experiences. And I know this group's gonna have a ton to contribute here. But really looking as technology as the bridge, whether it's AR, AI, VR, NFC, RFID. I think I may have left an acronym out, but all of it being covered there. And here's a couple of snippets. You know, Zara launched their virtual try-on experience. Super simple, take 2 pictures, boom, you can try on their catalog. And then also we're seeing interesting areas in display and retail media. And I know Tamara in her space has some great items to share. So what does it all mean? What are the drivers? What's next? Because we are talking about the future, right? So really kind of bringing it together, when we look at those key drivers, personalization and trust. For brands and retailers, it's really delivering that transparent and AI frictionless experience. For community and fandom, it's really designed for belonging, bringing those authentic experiences, co-creating with the fans and have a fan-first approach. For places and spaces, it is reimagining those places. So what might be a traditional sort of retail format, experiment with it, turn it over, find some partners, see what happens. And then sociable and shoppable storytelling, you know, look at those creators, look at those entertainment partners, and experiment with new platforms that can become shoppable. And then lastly, with connected experiences, again, make that total experience seamless and a little bit magical, not technology for technology's sake, but where you do bring that magic. And so here's our rally cry for the group here. We want to drive the future of experience-driven retail together. And with that, I'll turn it over to Patrick.
Thanks, Valerie. Great to be here. Thank you all. I'm the Senior Vice President of Digital Development, Operations, and Strategy at Simon. And for those of you who may not know who Simon is, we are a retail real estate company, traditionally, I guess. You know, so you may know us from some of our malls, mills, and premium outlets. We have a number of them located here in Las Vegas. You may have stumbled into the Forum shops or the shops at Crystals on the Strip here, or either of our Las Vegas North or South premium outlets as examples here, but your brand of our mall might be very different depending on where you are in North America. It's about 220 properties today. And what we're most proud of is, really is it's a collection of the world's best brands. It's over 3,000 of the who's who of retailers and restaurants and service providers that kind of make up this community that we collectively do call a shopping center. And where I started was it used to be just a mall company. But we are so much more, and this really was where the transformation has started for us, was that top little box of shop. That's where we traditionally only played, right? We were only a mall. But we've dramatically changed how we think and operate and act, right? So we are actively bringing hotels and ownership of those in and around our properties, work through literally investments in Lifetime and other great providers. We have office towers being often built and co-located. So we just take a much more holistic view of what retail real estate is. It's no longer just a mall. And that's allowed us to really let us form a foundation. So from that place, we started a marketplace called shopsimon.com. And by having a great e-commerce kind of foundation, so no longer we were just in-store shopping, it was also then online. We now operate one of the largest in-store and online search engines. We call it Simon Search, but it allows over 300 product catalogs and growing of retailers to be, so you can actually understand what is available in store before you go, right? So is it worth the time, the gas, the babysitting, the traffic, the parking, whatever the frictional thing is that's keeping you from making the visit, we can hopefully say the thing you want is available at the retailer you trust at a price that you find agreeable. You can know that information before you go. With those two in our other foundational pieces, we've really kind of been able to do something dramatically different in the last 3 months. We've brought together the world's first loyalty program for the omnichannel mall experience. I'd love to kind of share what that looks like in just a really simple 1-minute video here. And there is sound if we have it.
Is that the new loyalty program for shopping?
I already have so many points.
I
for
signed
shopping
up in
here.
under a minute.
Deals and offers everywhere. And cash back.
And cool stuff just for shopping.
Even online?
Yep. Join today and get rewarded.
Visit simonplus.com.
So for us, a retail experience, we don't sell anything ourselves. We're the mall that brings it all together, but this allows us to interact with our shopper and provide real value for them on top of everything else that the retailer is or their payment card is providing. So we're able to provide cash back and or points depending on the type of transaction that you're performing in our malls. It gives you, added value of discounts along the way. And yes, we get to better understand who our shoppers are as a result, so we can better target offers, we can better reward them, again, and can get that virtuous cycle and that flywheel going. So, it starts with a very, simple proposition of, signing up, providing, receipts if you so choose, or you can link a credit card to make it kind of a frictionless experience. Then as you shop our shopping centers, every place you make a purchase, we can either give you cash back if it's a card-linked offer, and or at least points, and those points then are redeemable for all sorts of value through rewards and surprise and delight. So it's something we're really excited about. In a very short period of time, being in market for really less than a whole quarter, we've already acquired over 1 million members. The points are racking up. This means, we're seeing a tremendous amount of purchasing activity. And, the retailers are actively, engaging with us to bring this thing to life. So we're really excited for what the future holds of bringing a better shopping experience to life for our shoppers, where it's no longer just a place to go procure goods and services, but it is much, much more, and we can provide a tangible, reward and value back on top of anything else that the retailer might be providing as far as a coupon or discount that you're getting, maybe a cash back in addition to that from your credit or debit card. Maybe the retailer also has a loyalty program. You're triple, quadruple stacking, at this point, on that, which is great, right? We really want to give you as much as we can back through that. So if you're so inclined to have any more interest, throw in promo code CES, a little plug, but we'll give you some extra bonus points to get you started. But one final thought, as far as experiential, is one of the many, many ways you're on the strip, so maybe you're out tonight walking back from dinner or drinks. If if you happen to be around Caesar's Palace, this is just one of the many, many ways. This one happens to be rather large, but experiential to us often takes a physical form. So this one is, sights, it's sounds, it's multi-screened, it's, literally on one of the best shopping centers on the planet. We're kind of bringing that to life. So you can literally go experience it as you walk by and hear and feel it as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Phil.
Thank you. Well, that's tough to follow. That's a lot of great work that's underway. But yeah, when I was reflecting on what to bring to talk to today at the panel, there's a lot going on with retail, right? Retail is very diverse, and I thought, one of the things that we'd kind of just begin the conversation on this front is that, I've had the privilege of putting a wonderful team together where we're ambassadors of AI, but really we're practitioners of design thinking, system thinking. I think that's a really important point because, we're always looking end to end, right? So from the very beginning, the problem to solve, defining the problem to solve, but then we're looking all the way down the value chain, all the way to the retail experience. And then what other problems exist along that value chain that we can use efficiently and effectively to enhance the solution fit that are being generated at the very front end. And that's really exciting. But even more so than that, the team that we've put together, we're educating our cross-functional teams to be designers, right? To be these system thinkers. And that's not easy, right? So it's being able to look for the unexpected. It's the emergence of things which you didn't quite see at the very beginning, at the very initial briefing. It's being able then to take some of the evidence that you're gathering. It's being able then to look at the predictable breakdowns and stitching all that together to make really wonderful, engaging experiences, right? So I think it's a really important point. And so we can certainly elevate and hammer home that every physical and digital interface is the future of retail, right? It's not a one, fits all. It's not a silver bullet. And so it's really important that we experiment, and it's really important that we test and learn and build, test and learn, and continue doing that as repetitive loops in your innovation process. So I thought I'd bring up a couple of examples. The first one, we're always human-centric, right? As a PepsiCo design innovation team, that is, what we believe in, and it's the first class in school as an industrial designer that you take, and I'm very blessed to have a team of wonderful industrial designers who do great things. Now, think about if you take that kind of problem to solve or human need, but then you think about right to the source, right? Right to the source of where the ingredients are coming out of the ground. I had a chance, I always like to share something personal in these panels. I got the chance to co-host and co-facilitate Regenerative 2025 Summit back in June last year, and put farmers, technologists, scientists, designers, all in one room, and start to talk about the food system, right, which is pretty damn broken, and there's lots of problems to solve, right? But one of the biggest things that did come out of it was this urgency for transparency, right? And we're seeing it in our human behavior and consumer behavior right now, right? We're seeing all these apps scanning the back of the packages. It's actually then shaping their purchase intent, right? They're taking it as, as gospel, right? So in order to make their choices. And I think that's super interesting, right? So that's a very different retail experience and a very different way of expressing what retail experience is, right? It's defining the behaviors of our consumers. Another example, kind of switching lanes, is this idea of, funny enough, AI, right? Embracing AI in the viral adverts that we build, and what you see here, and hopefully the sound is low. This is actually an AI generated using Firefly, Adobe Firefly. We have a great strategic partnership with our friends at Adobe. And we did this as a kind of like a viral launch to a limited batch of probiotic Pepsi that we were going to launch earlier, or late in the year, I should say, last year. it went off like a rocket, right? So, and suddenly we sold out. But again, another way of kind of really embracing that test and learn and different UX and interfaces in order to reach a different crowd. So definitely kind of like something to consider, diversifying and build, test, learn these prototypes that, that we're very much fond of doing. The third one is human need meets convenient delivery. Now, we did back in the Super Bowl last year, so that'll be last February time. We decided to do a short one-weekend pilot for the Super Bowl and deliver a very predefined select delivery to the doors of who signed up for that weekend. And that could be delivered on a halftime show. It could be delivered sometime during the weekend. Again, we did a little bit of a tease. We used the infrastructure of the Wing app. We basically put a skin over the top, and then it went viral, right? We did a small marketing campaign to back it up. We really didn't need it because we crashed the system, right? The minute it went live, again, this is down to kind of consumer behavior, the idea of pop-ups coming up on our phones. We know how the interface of the phone is definitely, an entry point and way in for many things. But we leaned into that kind of like natural habit. And then suddenly we were able to, click, buy, and then deliver a package in under 4 minutes from the Nest at Frisco. So what you see here, and I think you should play the video if it's not playing on my click. I'll pause to see if it's going to, yes, perfect. So as you can see, as soon as you ordered it, the unique package underneath got delivered, and then obviously then during their time, whether it be halftime and so forth, they could go and enjoy the snacks and enjoy our brands at a very specific time. And again, this is leaning into, how do we solve that last mile in a really unique way, but also how does it feel personalized? And obviously a logical next step is rather than it be a predefined package, then it would be a, choose your own route and choose your own package to be delivered. So I think that just shows that diversity. And so, yeah, I would love to, talk more about it during Q&A, but I'll pass the clicker to you.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to put some stuff on the screen behind me and talk to you a little bit about how we see it in the retail space. And I want to give you a bit of background in terms of what we do and what we support. So being a digital signage provider, and I'm going to kind of ask people in the room if they're willing to do a show of hands, we see implementations in the retail space all the time. In fact, I went and walked a lot of the malls here. It was very interesting. You were just talking about the mall over at Caesar's Palace. I walk them a lot, and I take a look and go, what is the technology doing? I mean, this place like New York or anywhere else, Times Square, there's screens everywhere. But what are they doing? And companies are spending millions of dollars on technology, which is ever changing. Whatever you're going to roll out today is probably going to have a 3 to 5 year life. What used to be an 8-year life is a 5-year life. A 5-year life is a 3-year life. A 3-year life is going to be 18 months. That's just how technology goes. But they're investing millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of dollars in technology, but then everybody is. There's just a bunch of screens everywhere, from the coffee shop that you go to a retail store, but what is it doing for you? I think that's the key question, because then we just all get inundated with more screens. And so the way we look at it really is digital signage or any digital technology is there to help empower human engagement. And yes, there's the convenience factor. I don't know if this is going to play. Let me try. Yeah, I'll just let it play in the background. But it's meant to create a better experience and to empower human engagement. And that doesn't mean we all have to do things alone. It can bring people together. It has to change the experience. It should inform, it should educate, it should make you feel better about being with people, it should solve something. So I'm going to ask a question of everybody here if you're willing to share, and I understand if you don't want to put your hands up, but nobody knows. So if you're running a business and you're doing digital signage, how many people actually have a documented content strategy plan? How many people have a business continuity plan maybe, or think that there's value in a business continuity plan? Okay, now I'm really getting nervous. I'm not seeing a lot of business continuity plans. I'm not seeing content. How many people think it's important to have a financial plan as you think about your life? Okay, so you think about that on a personal space. If you're running a content strategy or you're using digital signage, what is your strategy? And you're 100% right. Try and experiment. But if you don't put a good strategy behind the content, you just have expensive technology hanging on walls. And it comes right down to the architectural design, when the building is done, really thinking about it at the earliest stage, what it's doing, how it's going to change. How does it impact your customer, your consumer? How does it draw people to the mall? So it's great to hear from the mall owners and the developers that they're thinking about it holistically. That's how you attract the best talent. That's how you get the best clients. You get the best retailers. That's going to bring in people. You create an experience. Shopping, retail's not going to go away. There's always, I feel, there's always going to be retail. I still believe people like to get out and go to the store, but for different reasons. Sometimes we just want to go for the social, the human, the engagement. I mean, how many times do you think about, you know, maybe ladies, if you think about trying to drag your husband to go shopping with you, they don't want to go shopping. But maybe if they're in the store and they can have a beer while they're watching the football game and there's something great going on, that's an okay thing to do. So creating these experiences and looking at the screens to say, is it even playing anything? I don't think it's playing anything. Is it? It's just black? I don't know what happened there. Maybe it just replayed. I'll turn it over to Barry in a second. But the key is really to figure out, what do you want the content to do? What do you want the strategy? And what we see the most often is, and I'm very data-centric. I believe data drives a lot of things. It really is so important to use data, not drama, and not gut feel, and real actual information. We're living in a world now where AI is bringing in so much information, adjusting the content on the fly, changing the screens based on the weather that's outside, maybe the team in the market that's in the finals. I mean, think of the World Cup coming. When you see large brands and retail showing these standard loops across all of their stores, it isn't personalized. It doesn't adjust. It's not changing for the weather and the demographics and people that are coming to the store or what's hot in that market. So customizing it, creating that experience, getting people to want to come to your retail environment. Everyone who comes to a retail environment is a marketer. And so now turning all those experiences into social media plays. People love to see themselves shown on screens. They love to see, it's very strange when you think about it, and if you really dive down into a content strategy, we talk so much about personal information and privacy. We can't have cameras. Yet, I guarantee you, everybody who's walking around here these last few days, you're nothing but on camera, and if they wanted to find you, they can find you in a heartbeat. We're on cameras 24/7. So how do we take the content that we're putting out there and adjust it in real time? People who are using retail are different at different times of the day, different days of the week, depending on the environment, depending what they want, depending what's going on in the market, in the economy, in the political environment. And so to bring all of that external information together, make contextually relevant content based on AI, and have baselines that you measure expectations from and really get the performance results from is key. Because you want to drive a result. And so I think what you said is so spot on. You have to experiment. You have to try different things, but it's so critical. And the biggest challenge that we see with people is it's so technology focused without the business result and the impact focus. And that I would encourage you to really think about the content strategy plan.
Thanks so much, Tamara. Great points.
Thanks, Tamara. Hi, everybody. I'm Barry McGough. I run innovation, head of innovation at the Americo Group. For those of you that don't know who the Americo Group is, we are licensees and owners of brands, and our biggest clients are people like Walmart and Target. So we sell at the mass level, and we license brands like Champion and Reebok. So brand health is really, really important to us. However, we operate what I would call, like we're at CES, so we'll talk about it in tech terms. We're kind of in the middle stack of the value chain. So we don't originate the brand. We're deep into the supply chain. We design, develop, and sell, and we can't market much, really only on package, and we can control very little of what the consumer sees. But it means a lot to us. Because if a consumer does not see what all we put into it, then they're not going to go in to prefer our product and to go in for greater sales velocity and all the good things that we want to see. So I run something called applied innovation, and that's the idea that any innovation that you run contributes to the core business. So we solve any problems that come through. A lot of problems are coming through that are digital. So when we're talking about AI, everyone's perception of AI is that it's magic. And in fact, that's what people say, that any good innovation is indistinguishable from magic. But it's not. It's really, really tough. So to say that we've been on a really interesting journey this year for all of us, I think has been an understatement. So I started the year doing something called, it was a hackathon with a company called Machine Cinema. It was at Fordham University. It was free. They had 60 people come in, and they had 5 hours to do a 4-minute video. What was really, really interesting, and I didn't really know, is that it took them 15 different tools to do it. So 11 Labs, Kling, Sora, Midjourney. This is even before Nano Banana, right? So I realized how really, really difficult it was. So one of the things that Americo asked me to do and my team to do was, how can you embark on digital product creation where we don't have to learn a new language, right? We're not going into anatomically correct design. And how can we use Gen AI to do it? So we did the classic innovation down selection process, and what we ended up doing was working with a few people, good people, Viscom, Style3D, Raspberry. They're all really awesome. And then a challenge was thrown down. They said, hey, we have an opportunity to do a digital billboard right here in Vegas at Magic. 70 feet high, 240 feet long, so really weird shape. And we want you to use Gen AI to do it, and you have a week. It's like, sure, I'll try it. Why not?
It's like a reality show.
Yeah, it was. So knowing that there was a lot behind that request, that it's not just magic, right? But knowing that it was really important. This is really important for the Champion brand. We had just got the license. So what we did is we worked tirelessly with Style3D, they're an awesome company, and what we ended up doing was having midnight stand-up calls with their dev teams in Singapore and China, and it was a white-knuckle experience. So sharing our journey of what we're doing on the digital side was really, really interesting. We're growing muscle. We're all growing muscle, right? What we ended up doing was putting up a billboard that was seen by 1.8 million people. It was up for a week. It cost $8,000. So we're starting to see the value of going through these pilots. So what's the context for today, right? Having grown that muscle, another opportunity came down the line is, can we replace photo shoots with no time? And so for the John Deere brand, we wanted to do a photo shoot. So we did, and sorry, we're gonna back up a little bit. One of the benefits of that whole photo shoot is that all the models on there are synthetic. And again, I'll back up a little bit more. What was also really interesting about doing it is, it wasn't just getting these assets, is that we were using the full Gen AI stack. So we're using text to render, and that text to render goes from render to 2D, render from 2D to 3D, render from 3D to avatar, and avatar to video. So one thing I forgot to mention is that video started with a pencil sketch, right? And it ended up being, and I think this might play in a second, it ended up being a 7-second video on the billboard. And that started with a sketch. So there were no models, no licensing fees, no agencies. So we really, really saw the value of doing this. A lot of tools in the toolbox to do it. what we ended up doing was getting the opportunity to do this for the John Deere brand. So we did a photo shoot for the John Deere brand, and we were able to do fully synthetic, no photo shoot renders. And those renders we were able to put onto the PDP pages of Walmart. Now, why is that interesting for us in this sort of middle stack layer? It's interesting for us because now, if we can use these sketch to render, sketch to avatar, sketch to video, we can populate these assets on the Walmart pages, on the Target pages, and we can insinuate and get involved in the sell-in and the sell-through. We're just in the middle. And all of a sudden, we have an unlock to touch the consumer experience.
It's incredible because, as we were talking earlier, you have that constant feedback group. So where most of us are targeting consumers and the consumer decision maker, you know, Barry, you have the buyer and having that observational. So it's very cool.
Here we go. This is what they asked us to do, but this is the video. So those people are synthetic. They're not real. And this is the video, and this is what we do. This is what I've done, and I worked at Google and PVH, so we're running applied innovation for a lot of companies. But really the idea that we're able to run this is really, really interesting. So we're starting to see the opportunity as we learn the digital stack. And I don't know whose slide this is. Okay, there we go. Thanks for letting me share that.
Thanks so much, Barry. And I know we have a couple of minutes left, and so of course we'd love to wrap it up with a couple of questions from this phenomenal group. And I think, I think we saw loads of different real-world examples in technology, and I always get excited when you get to see the real-world stuff. So, question for the group here: you know, what are the things that you're seeing? What of those sort of trends or drivers stood out? Where are you seeing the magic happen in experience-driven retail?
Me?
Anyone.
Happy to do it. So, for us, like what I just explained, we're starting to see that what's happening with image generation is really game-changing. So, if we're able to affect the consumer experience and start to see what we can do with content and product creation, then we can also add value to like shortening our supply chain, right? Like that kind of digital design product is really important. But because we're getting to this place right now where we're able to render things like we just saw that we believe, that we can render synthetic humans that we believe. They can be spokespeople, they can be people that we would buy products from, that we would feel emotion about. And that becomes really, really important for us because we've crossed this thing called the uncanny valley, where we now believe these synthetics where they aren't before. It's completely game-changing from a product and brand perspective.
Absolutely.
I'll just add to that. I agree with what you're saying. I think you can still really tell some of the artificial stuff. We've got a little bit of a ways to go. But what we're seeing is the cost reduction and the ability to produce stuff so quickly, to change your content so quickly, and to integrate all the other information around it to bring it all together to have a more impactful content experience is going to be rapid, lightning fast.
Yeah, I think, your example with the hackathon, I've talked about this in other panels, but the importance of cyber-human loop. So, using AI as we are the conductors and the AI is the helper. And the ability then to lean into the strengths of the supercompute as well as the human mind, I think is a very strong statement. And I see it happening, not just in our business, but that's an exact kind of example where they took them 12, 14 tools, but they were conducting them together in order for them to give the value back.
It definitely answers the question about, in my mind, the fear that AI will take your job. This experience that I had at Fordham University definitely proved that the person that knows how to use AI is going to take your job for
100%.
sure.
Now, we have, I think, 1 minute left. I'm kind of getting flagged. And so we're at CES, so what better way to wrap the panel in terms of talking about lessons learned and where are we going in the future? What does the future hold for experience-driven retail? It's to the group, so anyone?
I'll take a quick crack at that one. So I think there's 4 technologies we might see more of, at least in our world. So way more of EV charging. That's actually becoming a much bigger portion of the physical shopping experience. robotics. We've seen that massively throughout the show. They've already started, as far as cleaning robots, sometimes during and after hours, but there is so much more that we know is going to happen there. Alternate delivery, so your drone example, that is not fiction. That is not just a marketing stunt. That is going to be much, much more of a normal situation for goods delivery. And then, I'll leave it there,
Yeah, I think the importance of build, test, learn, right? So I encourage your teams to have that mentality as and a culture within your four walls, no matter what size business, right? Startup through to full corporation, large corporation, and I think that will help bring down the barriers to drive new solutions. And even if it doesn't work, you've learned really good data and you've understood where you can evolve it. Hit the stop and pivot, or for that matter, accelerate and double down on something.
I agree completely. Just empower human engagement. We can do it faster, we can make changes quicker, and we can leverage all that technology.
We're constantly learning and thinking about the consumer experience, even though we don't own the brand. I was recently at Silicon Valley, the Plug and Play Summit, and I had the good fortune to see Fiona Tan speak. She's the CTO of Wayfair. And what she talked about was something that I'm thinking about a lot, which is what are the things we need to do more? What do we need to lean into? And one of the things that she brought up, which I hadn't heard much about before, was generative engine optimization. And so we are going to have to start thinking about going to market in different ways, and making sure that we're training the model so that the model sees us, because we want the customer to see us. So there are technologies and tool sets and new best practices that we're going to have to learn real fast.
Great. Thank you, everyone. We're going to be over here if you want to ask questions, etc. Thank you so much for joining us.